From death row to life in prison, now a convicted murderer will be resentenced, and this time he could face the death penalty again. And this all stems actually from the cruel murders of 6 roommates in Deltona over an Xbox. Fox 35's Matt Trezza gives us a preview of tomorrow's court hearing.
It was a senseless crime that stunned Central Florida. The brutal killings of 6 people, ranging in ages from 34 to just 17, and a dog. Sheriff Ben Johnson, Volusia County's then sheriff, described the massacre.
A lot of trauma, a lot of blood splatter, and it's just a very, very brutal crime.
The year was 2004, and the crime came to be known as the Xbox murders. 4 men, Troy Victorino, Jerome Hunter, Michael Salas, and Robert Cannon, were all convicted of the grisly killings.
Okay, so we have a kaleidoscope. We got a glider, a kaleidoscope. One glider appears to be one hombrito or sunbrito. And 2 sons. Okay. So you can't put this all on us, but we are the majority in this case, but you know, we have a kaleidoscope here.
4 men, Troy Victorino, Jerome Hunter, Michael Salas, and Robert Cannon, were all convicted of the grisly killings. Deputies say they used bats and knives to kill the 6 people at the house, all because one of them allegedly took things from Victorino, including an Xbox game console.
So they took things from him, including an Xbox. So I'm assuming that the Xbox was probably the most valuable item. I'm assuming that. Listen, man. This guy, him doing a life sentence is not that bad for what he did. And I'm going to get to the fact that they killed 7 people over this, with bats and knives. I mean, Jesus Christ. I guess a gun ban wouldn't have helped this. A gun ban would have done nothing to prevent this crime. In fact, a gun ban probably helped this crime, because if one person in that house had been armed, they could have dispatched of all these knife-wielding, bat-wielding homicidal maniacs. Even if you had a revolver, a 6-shooter like that old man that killed Ralph Yarl, you could have, once you shoot one, the dudes with the bats and the knives, they're going to start running. Hey, man, facts. If a bunch of dudes with bats and knives start menacing and approaching you, shoot one of them in the leg. He gonna hop away, and the other 3 gonna be running after him or in front of him. But to these guys right here, the other 3, woo, you're doing a life sentence because somebody stole, amongst other things, an Xbox from your buddy. And that's the problem with the gang life, man. The gang life, and you know, when you have to ride for somebody. Now that guy would probably ride for them too. That's the thing too, though. You have to recognize that he would probably ride for them too if someone had stole their Xbox. But to be sitting in prison and having a lot of time to think, no matter how low IQ you are, or how dumb you are, or dim-witted, within that first year in prison, in your cell alone, with your thoughts, it's going to dawn on you that you're in prison for the rest of your life because someone stole another guy's Xbox. That is going to cross your mind. And then once it crosses your mind once, it is going to do laps across your mind for the rest of your life.
Deputies say they used bats and knives to kill the 6 people at the house, all because one of them allegedly took things from Victorino, including an Xbox game console. Orlando attorney Albert Yanfa says the crime was shocking.
The heinousness of this crime is just horrific. What these individuals were convicted of.
Salas and Cannon were sentenced to life in prison. Victorino, the ringleader, and Hunter were sentenced to death.
Oh, see, that ain't right, man. They sentenced the Hombrito and the Glider to life. They sentenced the 2 sons to death, man. The only reason, and I mean the only reason possible for that, could be race. According to liberals, Jalen Rose and Tim Wise types, the only reason that could be possible is because of the color of their skin. There's no other factors that could determine why 2 guys got life and 2 guys got the death penalty in a case where 7 people were killed with bats and knives.
Salas and Cannon were sentenced to life in prison. Victorino, the ringleader, and Hunter were sentenced to death. But the jury's decisions at the time were not unanimous. A later change to state law decided that Florida's death penalty had to be unanimous, so their sentences switched to life in prison.
The United States Supreme Court decided in Hurst v. Florida that Florida's sentencing statute was unconstitutional. Reason being, it only required a majority as opposed to unanimous. And what the United States Supreme Court said was, that violated the 6th Amendment.
Now, with a new change in state law, there'll be a new sentencing hearing set for Tuesday to see whether Victorino and Hunter will return to death row.
So if the jury recommends 8-4 for death, that's taken as a 12-0 for death, right? If the jury decides for life in prison as opposed to death, the judge has to impose life.
But if the jury votes for death, either unanimously or in a majority decision, Yanfa says there may still be years of appeals and further hearings to come. In Orlando, Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.